Hey everyone, I am super excited you're here today because we're going to absolutely demystify the 401k. Think about this. There are literally trillions of dollars sitting in these accounts right now. But let's be honest, most of us spend way more time researching a new TV than we do checking under the hood of our 401k. And hey, I get it. Retirement accounts can feel like this dense, boring maze of financial jargon. But we're going to clear all that away today. We're relying strictly on the math and the hard facts straight from our sources to show you exactly what's happening with your money. No fluff, just the facts you need. All right, let's jump right in.
So I gotta ask, do you actually know how a 401k works? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the reality is, even though this is the absolute most popular investment vehicle in the US, studies are showing that millions of Americans are just tossing money into it completely blind. They're basically flying blind into retirement. They've got no clue what it's costing them in fees, how it's going to be taxed, or how to truly squeeze every drop of value out of it. Well, today, that changes. We're putting you back in the driver's seat of this massive wealth-building machine.
Here's the roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the wealth-building machine. Second, 401k nightmares and traps. Third, we'll tackle traditional versus Roth. Fourth, we'll look at benchmarks by your age. And finally, beyond the 401k.
Starting off with Section 1, the wealth-building machine and its foundational mechanics.
Okay, so at its core, a 401k is simply an employer-sponsored retirement account. But you know what its absolute secret superpower is? Automation. See, before your paycheck even hits your bank account, way before you ever have the chance to blow it on a new gadget or a weekend trip, a piece of it is automatically deducted and invested for you. It literally forces good savings habits by snatching the money out of your hands before temptation can strike. Honestly, it basically saves us from our own worst financial enemy, which is usually ourselves and our online shopping carts.
Now, employers and the government toss us three huge incentives to use these accounts. First up is tax deferral, meaning the cash you put in actually lowers your taxable income for the year. Pretty sweet, right? Second, your investments grow year over year completely tax-free. But the third one? This is the big one, the employer match. Listen, roughly 90% of companies out there offer some sort of match. This means if you put a percentage of your salary in, your boss just hands you extra money on top of it. Guys, this is literally free money, and you absolutely have to take full advantage of it. It's step one, no questions asked.
To put this into perspective, let's look at the math for a 20-year-old. If they save just $95 a month for their entire career, they are going to hit $1 million by age 65. But here is the totally mind-blowing part. 95% of that $1 million comes purely from compound growth. Yeah, only 5% was money they actually had to sweat for and put in themselves. The takeaway here? Your money works so much harder than you do, as long as you give it decades to do its thing.
All right, moving to Section 2, 401k nightmares and traps, and those sneaky hidden costs.
40 cents. I really want that to sink in. Out of every single dollar Americans pump into 401ks, 40 cents just disappears due to system leakiness and early withdrawals. You gotta remember, this money is locked in a vault until you're 59 and a half years old. If you yank it out early, the IRS is gonna slap you with a 10% penalty, and that's on top of whatever taxes you already owe. Treating your 401k like some kind of emergency piggy bank is a guaranteed way to absolutely destroy your compounding power.
And then we have the fees. Yep, your 401k charges you a fee called an expense ratio. Now, it sounds completely harmless, right? Like, oh, it's just a fraction of a percent. Well, check this out. Let's say you invest $1,000 a month over 40 years with a 10% return. If your fund charges a rock-bottom 0.07% expense ratio, you end up with $5.2 million. Incredible! But what if your plan has a slightly higher 0.85% fee? You end up with $4.2 million. That tiny, supposedly harmless little fraction just siphoned a cool $1 million straight out of your retirement and into the pockets of Wall Street money managers. Seriously, check your expense ratios.
Oh, and remember that free money employer match we were raving about earlier? Well, it usually comes with some pretty major strings attached, and it's called a vesting schedule. Employers use this to lock you in. For example, a cliff vesting schedule might dictate that you have to stick around for 3 full years before that matched money is actually yours to keep. If you bounce a month early, the company reaches right in and takes all their match money back. Poof, gone. Always check your vesting schedule before you jump ship for a new job.
Next up is Section 3, Traditional versus Roth 401k and the Great Tax Dilemma.
Okay, let's break this down. With a traditional 401k, you do not pay taxes on the money going in. So if you earn $1,000, boom, all $1,000 goes straight into the account to grow. But, and it's a big but, when you retire and pull that cash out, you pay income tax on the whole thing. Now, the Roth 401k completely flips the script.
You pay taxes up front, today. So out of that same $1,000, maybe only $700 actually makes it into the account. But here is the absolute magic of the Roth. When you retire and start pulling that money out, every single penny, including all those decades of growth, is 100% tax-free.
It all boils down to this quote from our sources. Your 401k lets you defer taxes. It does not let you avoid taxes. There is no escaping it. The government is absolutely going to get its cut. So your decision really depends on where you think your taxes are heading. If you think you're going to be in a lower tax bracket when you retire, the traditional route probably makes sense. But if you plan on being super wealthy by then, or if you just think the national debt is going to force tax rates to skyrocket in the future, then taking the hit today and locking in your taxes with a Roth is definitely the smarter play.
All right, Section 4. Benchmarks by your age. Time for a little reality check. When we actually compare what Americans have saved versus what the math says they need, a pretty stark reality emerges. For a median earner, the target is to have 1 times your salary saved by age 30 and a massive 20 times your salary by age 65 to hit true financial independence. Now, at age 30, things actually look pretty decent. The average balance is right around $37,000, trailing just slightly behind the $41,000 target. The employer match is really pulling its weight early on. But look at what happens when we hit age 40. The average balance is $97,000, but the target has jumped to $179,000. And by age 65, prepare yourself. The target is over $1.4 million, yet the average 401k only has $271,000 sitting in it.
We call this the 401k chasm, and the data just spells it out for us. In your 20s and 30s, the 401k and your employer match do the heavy lifting. But as soon as you hit your 40s and 50s, those alone just aren't going to cut it. People fall drastically behind because they fall into this trap of thinking their employer is just going to magically fund their entire retirement, and it's simply not true.
So if you feel like you're staring down the barrel of that chasm right now, don't panic. Here is exactly what you need to do to catch up. Step 1. Optimize your account immediately to make sure you are squeezing out every single cent of that employer match. Step 2. Start maxing out your contributions. The current IRS limit is $23,000, but there is some phenomenal news for older savers. Thanks to the 2026 catch-up limits, if you're 50 or older, you can dump an unbelievable $32,500 a year into this account. And step 3, if you're dreaming of retirement early, you've got to familiarize yourself with the rule of 55. It's this super unique 401k loophole that lets you take penalty-free withdrawals if you leave your job in the year you turn 55.
And that brings us to our final section, Section 5, Beyond the 401k and Achieving True Diversification.
Listen, the biggest flaw of a 401k is the lack of control. You are totally boxed into paper assets managed by Wall Street. And think about it. Even if you diversify into a growth fund and an emerging market fund, if the overall stock market takes a nosedive, everything you own goes down with it. To build really resilient wealth, you have to venture outside of your employer's plan. That means rolling over old accounts into IRAs so you get total control over exactly what you're buying. It means stepping away from fragile paper assets and getting into hard assets, like real estate. Think single-family homes or even commercial buildings. It means opening up a brokerage account for individual stocks, or maybe even putting some capital into startups and private businesses.
And all of this exploring and expanding leads us right to the magic number, 25%. When you zoom out and look at all of your investment vehicles combined, your 401k, your IRAs, your real estate, your ultimate goal is a 25% gross savings rate. And here's the tough love part. If you make over $100,000 as a single person or $200,000 married, the employer match doesn't even count toward this anymore. You have to build the discipline to put away a full quarter of what you make to absolutely guarantee your own financial independence.
So I want to leave you with this one final thought. Look, a 401k is undeniably an incredible wealth-building machine. It is the absolute best place for the average person to start investing. But it's a pretty horrible place to keep all of your investments. So take a hard look at your own financial picture right now and ask yourself, is your 401k going to be the absolute end of your investing journey, or is it just the beginning? It's time to take control, double-check those fees, grab your employer match, and really start diversifying. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and hey, keep learning.